So yesterday I was hanging around in the backyard and a bird pooped on me and I had to come inside, have a shower and do laundry. So I'm not sure what I'm gonna be up to today, but hopefully I won't come into any further crashes in regards to, me and the birds or me and nature or whatever. Um but I must say some of my sunflowers have been coming out of the ground. Maybe more will have climbed out of the ground now that it's rained. Either way, I don't have any real big plans. I just gotta do an invoice, go for a walk, and then do some writing later on. So, um, there's nothing really that I have to get up to in particular. Um, so, but I did notice I'm with Centrelink right now, and I did notice I've been given a new case officer, and they seem okay, but when they email me and I email them back with questions, they refer me to someone else. It makes me feel like they're a bit of a fake case officer or something, because they should have been able to deal with my question, but they want to pass me on to someone else. So I'm pretty disappointed right now in the customer service. I'm going to ignore their referral and just write to the agency themselves, the general customer service email. Um, but it's very disappointing when it feels a little bit like, I don't know, like some weird fake thing or something. Like, it just feels like, it's too impersonal to be for real, so I'm not sure who on earth they are. Ever since I first met them or was contacted by them by phone, it's like they're pretending that I already know them, but I don't, so no idea what the deal is with that. But it just comes across as a little bit of a, I don't know why my case office has changed or whatnot, but either way, I find the customer service a little bit off-putting. It's like, oh, who on earth are these people not being able to answer a simple question? So it's really strange. But I'm officially still working. And I wouldn't mind changing to a work from home job so that I can do it rain, hell, and shine. But at the same time, this house isn't the quietest house in the world. I'll probably get fired from it anyways. But I've been considering requesting windows to be soundproofed, but I know the other person I live with doesn't like soundproofed houses. They like to be able to hear the noise outside so they know what's going on, so I haven't resorted to that yet about the soundproofing. But all morning I was thinking it's probably because I couldn't sleep very well and the traffic noise drones on throughout the night, and I was thinking, geez, we could use some soundproofing, from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock, and then I had a bad dream, wake up again at 7, and then wake up again at 8, so, but, if this were my house, I would soundproof it. I would put in installation, I would soundproof it, whatever it needs to block the world outside from disturbing me with noise. But it's not my house. But talking about my house, getting closer to the end of the year, closer to the decisions I have to make about where I want to live, consider options. Brisbane makes me feel uncomfortable. It's like I sort of feel like I should have stayed in the other state. At least people don't try to, like, I feel like I'm going to be run over by other people, but really the other state was more of a problem for me. It has been more relaxing so far because we don't have a soundproof home, but um, there are less people uh, stalking you and stuff. So, but at the same time, I don't really find it very enlightening that I can spread out, move towards a more country-like area because there are snakes, and when you see a snake on the road, you realize you need a car because their snakes are huge. But I'm worried that I'm in the wrong state. Like, there's going to be some evil repercussions. I mean, people always say Queensland make mincemeat of people, and when you realize that it's like a negative state. Um, but Melbourne was really wearing me down. So, but I liked it because it's good for a person who can't drive. And that's why I liked it. Everything's close by. What you don't like is so many people crowded in one area, and you have to sort of, once again, ignore noise. But if you have a quiet place, it's okay. But, yeah. I did try and buy some really cheap land there once, but it was gone by the time I called the real estate. So it was disappointing. But I wish I had been able to buy that land because I could use a block of land for a house. But anyways, um, don't get me wrong, Victoria has heaps of cheap land, but most of it's in the country, and this was in a suburb and close to the city. So, but I think I have to review options of houses and start collecting what houses or land packages are available, so that when it comes after the end of the year, I'd have to make those decisions about what I should be doing with my low income bracket. That I might have an idea. Um, I'm worried though that if I stay here, everything around me will make me feel very uncomfortable. Like, and make me settling here isn't where I really want to settle. I sort of would rather settle in the other place, but it's getting harder to move around with COVID and everything, and with state border closures and whatnot. The only thing that makes me feel more comfortable here is the weather. It's warmer, and back in the other state, I needed annual injections to keep the flu away. So the other state's a lot colder, so you get more prone to sickness. Um, so I don't mind the weather here. It's just that I don't know. I need a real quiet place so that I can feel lucky that I'm living in a very such a nice place, where otherwise I'm going to get depressed and wish I stayed in the other place. Because I technically would have loved to have lived in the other place, but I don't know. But if I end up here, it's like, well, I was considering moving here when I was in the other place because I was having some social issues and stuff. So, the prospect of living here hasn't ever entered my mind. It has, because generally it's more relaxing somehow, but I need a quiet place, otherwise I'm going to be depressed and moody, like feel very unlucky. I may as well stayed in the other place where I get depressed and moody. At least it's sort of more like the kind of place I'd rather be living. So, I was going to wait and see if I get any kind of deal over the internet, So in regards to buying houses, but I don't think I will. I think I'm going to have to rely on my pay packet. My pay packet's so low. I'm looking for a really cheap house anyway, so... And if it's house and land, I'm looking for the real cheap version of one. Because I can't afford much, so... Myself. But most of the time I want to be living by myself, not with family who sort of play me a little bit, but but I want to feel comfortable, otherwise I'm going to be like wishing I hadn't, you know. But I can always sell. I mean, if I try living here after a year or two, I don't like it, I can sell and or rent it and move off. I'm going to be buying cheap anyway, so it doesn't really matter, but I think I'm going to need a 50 grand house, technically speaking, because like I said, my money's really low and I can't afford much. I would technically want a brand new house for the cheapest version of one that I can get, but in reality, I don't think I can afford very much. I mean, I think 50 to 100 grand's my limit while I'm on the lower income scale, so and where I used to live doesn't have many of those options. I mean, I'm gonna look around for them, see if they do anywhere, but on the wider scale they don't. I was being recommended a $1.5 million house to live in that will keep me safe and secure, and I'm like, yeah, I can afford a $1.5 million house. So that's sort of what the area is like, and I'm like, oh, well, I can't afford that, so unless I get a special coupon deal or something, I'm gonna have to resort to trying to find a nice rundown house that I can do up and till I feel good in it, you know. It will definitely need to be soundproofed, and I would rather brick. So sort of what I'd be scoping out for. Otherwise, really cheap land, but most really cheap lands in the country, but sometimes it's in the suburb area, close to somewhere, so no harm in looking. Because I did find cheap land in the other place I lived ages and ages ago, in a couple of really popular areas, so, and they were like 20 grand or something, and I'm like, ooh. I tried to buy some, but like I said, it was gone by the time I called. You don't find those deals often, but sometimes you do. That's why it's good to check. But I don't know. I could use to start living on my own, I guess. I just don't know where or how. Like, I could veg out here for another year. I mean, my other relative, they're saying they're gonna spend at least 2 years more here, and I'm like, oh, okay. They might spend their lives here, but I don't know. I just have to research and see. So that's one other thing I can do, is research some housing options and prepare for closer to the end of the year, and then sort of see how things are and what I've researched, and yeah, see if venturing off my own is a good idea or whatever. So, but it needs to be quiet, needs to be sturdy, needs to be quiet. But I sort of suspect in my mind there's going to be a lot of weather changes up here, so I'm waiting for more news about big storms. It's like, oh, which areas can I move to avoid these possible futuristic storms? It's one thing that I have in my mind.